Welcome everyone to the House of Shadows and Ink. Today we have the privilege of speaking to Dr. Chris McAuley and Claudia Christian. I'll give them the floor to introduce themselves, but as you know, we love chatting with creators and focus on not just the projects, but the people behind them, especially in this world of AI. So let's start with Claudia. Just tell us who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Claudia Christian. I've been a performer since the early 80s as an actress in television and film. I also run a nonprofit now called Options Save Lives, where I promote and advocate a treatment for alcohol use disorder called the Sinclair Method. I have also done a lot of video games as a voice artist as well. So currently I'm Zalatath in World of Warcraft and in many other games video games that people play, and I've written a few books as well. So I'm
Excellent.
sort of a jack of all trades, master of none.
I wouldn't say that. I've seen your work. It's very good.
I'm kidding. Trying to be humble. Keep it humble.
Uh, okay, and Chris, welcome.
Well, I'm a writer, and I'm suppose I'm most known for StokerVerse with Decker Stoker, and that's in games and novels and audios and all sorts of things. And I also do Dark Legacies with Claudia here as well. And we're moving into all sorts of different media with that. It's comic book at the minute, and there's a video game being worked on, and there's even a pilot script for an animated TV series. And I've also worked extensively on Doctor Who, Terminator. I've done a little bit of Star Trek. All sorts of things. I write poetry, anything really.
And can I ask, where did you two meet?
It's been a while now, hasn't it? It's
Ah,
five. It's
gosh.
probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We did the Stokerverse thing together. That was the first thing we did together. So we did there was an audio called Voices of Dracula,
Oh
and
yes.
Voices of Dracula had a lot of very famous people in it, and Claudia was one of the very famous people in Voices of Dracula. So that was how we started working together.
Chris wrote an amazing character, and I was so thrilled to play it. She was just delicious to play. So that was a lot of fun.
I've seen. Well, I'm a huge fan of Chris's work. So whenever there's something new, even if you just like post a poem on your like Facebook page or something, I read it, and I'm starting to get like you're starting to get a following of people that actually, when we meet up, we can like, oh, did you see what Chris posted? And we actually start talking about it now. So it's becoming a thing. Like, well done.
That worries me. That worries me
Yeah,
immensely.
no, it shouldn't worry you. And he's so prolific across any and all genres. That's the really incredible thing, is that he can write, um, serious hardcore mech sci-fi, and then turn around and write a beautiful lyrical Irish historical story. So
And quite
it's
fast. Like
lovely.
you
Yeah,
produce at an incredible rate, and then you send me like we'll have a conversation. Like in this regard, we're actually very similar. Like I remember we had a chat, and we started talking about an idea for, I believe it was the like young Dracula and Frankenstein and everything,
Yeah,
and
I remember
like
that.
2 days later you were already like you sent me the first story or chapter or something. Like it was done. Like we started working on like what the character is going to look like. We talked about the young Dracula puppet, and you sent it to Terry Harden, and she sent like descriptions on what it like, dimensions and everything. And I mean, I'm gonna get that puppet like I think on Monday it arrives here. So it's like it's not just like the idea. It's like you go for it. Like I'll research for like 2 or 3 days on something and before diving in, but it's like if you don't do it now, it's
yeah,
just gonna go in the back of the list. Oh, let's see. Okay, there we go. It's just gonna go in the back of the list, and oh, Chris is gone, and then we're not gonna see it.
yeah. That's the problem with delaying. I'm the same way. I answer emails immediately, and if I have a project, I
Mm,
I update it immediately. Somebody gave me notes on a pilot that I'm writing right now yesterday, and I had the notes done 20 minutes after speaking to her, because I know that it's fresh in your mind, and time is of the essence, and you keep it sort of alive. It's like having a culture for bread, you keep feeding it. So eventually, it stays alive. Yeah.
Yes, I I think it's just especially in our industry, like we are so passionate about these projects. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to just like jump right in? Now my camera's off
Sometimes
center.
it's hard sometimes because life gets in the way, but also we all have to make money, and a lot of these creative passion projects are things that you're doing on spec. I can't even tell you how many projects that I'm doing on spec just because they're things that I love, that I
True.
think are viable and interesting. So, it's like this Mother Tree thing that we're doing. That started as a fantasy during my bout with COVID, and turned into this whole other project. So
Oh, that's
it's
good.
yeah,
And I think that's the nice thing about creative people. Like, doesn't matter what you go through. Like, it's part of your life, who you are, and if you pay attention and you look at it from all the angles, like you're gonna see something creative from whatever angle, and it's gonna become an idea, and just this massive chain reaction until like 2 3 years later there's this project that came out of it. I mean, I've heard
yeah,
so many stories of these things happening.
yeah.
I went down the rabbit hole of first thinking about animation and it was too expensive, and then seeing a Jim Henson documentary and falling in love again with puppets and like the Muppet Show and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
it just rolled on from there. Now we have our own puppet show, and we've got Chris's characters like being created for the show, with the characters on the show on YouTube to kids,
Yeah.
promoting mostly Chris's books because he writes much faster than all our other kids authors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's remarkable that that little germ of a creative juices can eventually come to fruition, which is so important nowadays because there is so much
Oh
immediate
yes,
gratification with AI and with social media and little clips of things that, I read a statistic the other day that the decline in teenagers reading was something like 60% since 4 years ago. I mean, it's
sure.
radical. It's a massive amount of kids that are not reading books. They just don't have the attention span to do so. So that's sad. And I think that if we make things enticing and interesting, then maybe they will start reading again. Make them fun and make characters that are truly memorable. And then maybe they will start engaging in this wonderful thing where you use your imagination. And that's the thing, people really don't think about it, but when they're reading, they're putting their own flavor into the story. Their imagination is filling in the gaps. When I read a story, it's going to have a different interpretation than when you read the story. So each kid is unbeknownst to them creating their own imagination, and they're strengthening their own storytelling in their
True.
minds. So when they read, they're engaging on a much deeper level than just reading a book. They're there and creating what the characters look like and sound like, and that's so important. That's an imaginative play activity that kids don't get when they're just looking at TikTok videos.
And if the author does a great job, they leave enough space for the kid to use their imagination. And I've seen
Exactly.
it. I've seen it with my kid. So she's watching what is this K-pop Demon Hunters thing now over and over, and she's actually interested in knowing. Like, I mean, she knows its characters. She knows I've shown her how animation works, and like she sees when we record the puppet shows and that stuff. But she still wants to know what they do, the characters. Like, what's their favorite book? What's their favorite color? What their favorite food? As if they are real characters. And she actually they think about this stuff, and they watch these YouTube videos where they show who their favorite actors are and their favorite books. And so we're going to do the same with the puppets. We want the kids to grow up with these characters, and but also learn about creativity and hopefully falling in love with reading and maybe even writing. So we had Chris on the show, like he was chatting with one of the puppets as if they were having a real conversation and like an interview. And I mean,
I
it's
love
if
it.
we as adults can still have that imagination of feeling like this is a real conversation, it blows kids' mind. I mean, if I could have seen stuff like that when I was growing up, I would have just loved it. You did get some shows where the real people interacted with the puppets, of course, and I mean that was popular even then, even with adults, not just the kids.
Well, didn't Sesame Street have humans talking to Big
We
Bird?
didn't
Or
have Sesame Street
oh, you didn't have
where
it. We did.
until I was like I think 11 or 12. It started showing.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and the
So
Muppets, of course. Yeah, the Muppets are classic for that stuff.
very cool. No, I love that.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we were talking about the mother tree. So, how did you two? I know Claudia had the whole during COVID. She started thinking of these characters and everything. So, where did you come into the project?
Well, Claudia and I sat down, and Claudia was telling me about the characters and what her vision was for a mother tree. And then I went away and just imagined these characters doing things. And Claudia had a great idea because we wanted to look at the ecological message, because that's getting lost a lot. Do you remember, like, we were talking there about?
Mm.
Yeah.
I know of him, but yes, never. I've never seen it. Mm. Yes. Mm.
Hmm.
Well,
The funny thing is that this really started as I had contacted Chris also because I was trying to reduce the idea down to the ability for my partner, who's a composer, to make this a musical piece. And so, in creating these characters and doing the voices during the COVID thing, um, I thought, and we were both sick and going through this in our minds, and he said, "Well, I'll write the music, and then you just be the narrator and perform the animal voices because you can do all the voices." I was showing him, and when I would do the cat, he'd said, "Okay, that's the French horn, or the, Rocky the raccoon is the trumpet, or what, the piano." At the time, we were thinking in a quartet, and so as the book has come along. Now it's so funny because I read it out loud to my partner, and now he's saying, "Oh, this is an orchestral piece, so we've got to get a big orchestra for it." So it's also changed in that regard. So when I read the small stories, I can not only hear the animals' voices, of course, but I can hear the music as well. So I'm looking forward to having that as well as sort of as an extra flavor for Mother Tree.
so how do you combine, let's say, like creative differences? I mean, you've got Chris, the author, you're there, like it's your vision, you're also part of the writing team, but you also have to think of
Hmm.
your husband with the music. Like, how do you find the balance?
Well, I mean, these I feel like they're the characters are part of me because I do all these voices. So that lives within me. If I had somebody else doing the performances, the live performances, I would have to find somebody who I found could embody these animals the way I do, or in their own unique way, which would be very interesting. Let's say a male actor, or someone very different from me, would be interesting to see how that goes. But as far as balancing it, you know, I had this brief synopsis which I worked on, and Chris was looking at it, and I said, do you think that this is too preachy? Or and then suddenly it became like, well, wouldn't this would make a good kids book? And so that's when that whole avenue of it started, and I thought, well, that's probably better to do the book first, because then you have something to show orchestras. So it's sort of like a flexible, like you were saying earlier, that you come up with a germ of an idea and it can translate into anything months or years or weeks later, decades later. Who knows what the final thing. I mean, Chris and I were talking and thought, wouldn't it be fun to do this as a puppet show, and I could do some of the voices for the animals, since that's sort of my jam. So it's a living, breathing entity, and I think that there's a lot of adventures that the animals can go on, and there's a lot of ways to tell the story, including having my partner write music to it, including having additional stories for these animals to go through different seasons, different climate issues, maybe holiday. I mean, there's so many different ways. I think it's just, when something resonates with you, you have to be flexible of mind in order to say, okay, right now it's not an orchestral piece, it's a book, but it's still the original idea. It will be an orchestral piece at some point. So things change, and you have to be flexible and take advantage of wonderful writing partner, and with a vivid imagination, and stay open to the rest of the incarnations of this lovely story.
And that's good, because I'm a big fan of, let's say you get a bunch of authors hanging out together. That's quite normal. But if you can get people from different fields, like, I mean, your partner, you said, is more in like music. You've done all the acting and the voices. Chris has a whole different perspective of, like, I mean, just like your work experience, your life and worldview, all of that stuff, and where your strengths are. So if you can get all these different people, I mean, from comic book people and movie directors and music people, all coming together every day and sharing ideas, I think that just this is the type of project that would come from that. And I think some authors, they just see, here's my story, I'm going to write a book, that's the end of it. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with an amazing character or story.
I was talking to my sister-in-law's partner, and suddenly he's like, oh, I saw that comic book, Dark Legacies. That would be a really cool animation thing. And, we could, and Chris, I were talking and saying, well, that's an amazing way to do a sizzle reel to then make it a TV series. I mean, you're constantly looking at ways to make intellectual property something else. I mean, and the more people that you run into and the more ideas, that's what helps it grow and actually manifest into something.
And that is my goal with this whole Shadows and the House of Shadows and Ink channel, because it's a kind of community where creators can or fans meet each other. But I really want creators to, and there's so many amazing people, but they've never met. And even when I look at my town, there are some really amazing artists and authors and people here, and they know about each other, but they never meet up, they never work together on projects. I don't know why, but my goal is, like, I want to bring people together, whether it's locally or internationally or through like online groups or whatever, and see what they can do together, because I think a team, you can just get so much more done, like having different perspectives, just angles on things.
It's also the energy, the shared experience
definitely.
of it. I mean, just the energy of talking to a group of artists. I just did a week in France at a writing workshop, and just the support and the excitement, and when you would read something out loud and somebody would resonate with them, or they'd give you an idea for the structure or an idea, and suddenly you're going back with this renewed enthusiasm because it's a collective, and it's that human energy, and we need that. It's very, very lonely. I mean, Chris knows, he sits in his basement writing for 14 hours a day. It's a lonely existence. He sees his cat and his wife, but right?
Mm.
So it can get very lonely, and I think it's far more stimulating and healthy to occasionally collaborate with other artists.
Oh, definitely. Um, for me as well, that's like the whole. I sometimes feel like isolated down here in South Africa, but it has its benefits of like staying out of the drama and stuff. But you miss out on so much. So I'm relying on online stuff like this, and I've met some amazing people. Like Chris is like one of the coolest people I've met. Well, now Claudia, you as well. But I mean, it's
You got competition, Chris.
yes.
I'm not that cool. I don't do very much. I barely leave the house anymore. I mean,
That's
you
the
know, but yeah, I think it can be fun. You know, there are. I've never had any difficulties working with Claudia, and I've never had very many difficulties working with. There's a guy, John Peel, I work with the Doctor Who stuff with, but there can be difficulties. You know, if people are listening to this and you're working with other people, you have to be quite relaxed about things, and you have to sort of just enjoy that experience. And that can be very difficult, I think, for writers and creators. But I'm quite laid back about a lot of things. So yeah, I think it all works. It all works well. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
I think it also comes down to we've been creative people for so long that even our problem solving is creative problem solving. Just like bumping heads with people and arguing. People like they freeze up. They're not going to hear anything you're saying. So we know, step back, like study the situation, the person, and then figure out a creative solution where it works. Especially if you're working with someone's like intellectual property or their characters, like you did with the Mother Tree. It's Claudia's characters, but you have to like bring them to life, kind of thing. So we were just talking about creative differences and that stuff. So it's good when you can work with someone that you just click. And I mean, the more you work together, it's just going to get easier and better. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
There's a funny story about that because, and Chris, you don't know this, but when I had the original, you had Rocky and Madeline and Lulu and Walter, and then all of a sudden, Chris like adds a fox, Finn, and I at first I'm like, wait a minute, this is like adding a fifth Beatle. This is just like and I'm thinking to myself, where did this Finn character come from all of a sudden? This is my foursome, and then it's so funny because I was talking to my partner and he went, oh yeah, no, the fox is great because we have a whole woodwind section now. So
That's cool.
See, Chris knew inherently that we needed the fifth character. So it's very funny that it all worked out beautifully.
I don't even know where the fox came from in my mind. I don't remember where the fox came from.
I think it was an Irish thing because you wanted Finn in there.
It might have been. It might have been.
I think wanted the Irish flavor in there, but just to let you know, it's a boon to the musical production of.
Oh, that's
Mother
good.
Tree.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to ask which is your favorite character, Chris, but I think I know the answer now.
Well, no, I like Rocky, but I like
my favorite.
Yeah, but Walter's quite nice too. Little Walter.
Walter comes out when we play backgammon because my partner is Persian, so we play backgammon a lot. And every time I get a whole bunch of double sixes in a row, and he starts to get peeved, I say, "It's all about the rules. It's just about the rules." Walter is a little Buddha who always just understands that you gotta roll with things. You just have to understand that life works out the way it's going to work out. But Rocky is he's always got the ideas, he's just full of spark and full of energy. And I think you can see that on the page, but also I know that in the live productions, when we do it, he'll be the comic relief, if you will.
Do you know what's really impressive? I didn't write one swear word in that book at all.
Well, you couldn't write a swear.
No, well, that was it. That was it.
There was no swears in the musical. Either. There's no swears.
I think it's one of the rare times that I haven't put any swearing and dialogue in a book. So there you go.
That
was
restraint with Rocky, because if he says southern funny expressions like "hot dang," it's actually funnier than an actual swear word. If he uses those old-fashioned expressions, lickety split and things like that.
No, I agree. Okay, so we've got The Mother Tree, which is a kid's book that you're doing together. Well, done together. It's up to me now to get it across. Like the final steps. And
I was going to ask, when is it coming out, Joe?
No, definitely next month. We had a few bumps in the road with Amazon, the printers and the pages, and they like to have these little white lines come before the edge of the page and the artwork, and we just want it as perfectly as possible. So it's a lot of testing, and then you upload again, send it to the printers, see if it comes back right, and then there's another thing to fix and another thing to fix. So until that is fixed, we're still saying November, but date-wise, we just want to get it so perfect, because it has to be. It just has to be. And that's an issue now with probably 4 kids' books that we're working on, but I think the problem is solved. So I can't wait to share this book with everyone. I recently just got into Chris Lake Publishing we are based in South Africa, but I've never had a South African market. It was never worth pursuing. The printers aren't good enough. They want, massive print runs and warehouse storing and all that stuff. And I finally found a printer that can do the quality of books that we need. And so I'm going to make sure I'll do whatever I can. We're going to get The Mother Tree into schools and bookstores and libraries across South Africa. Of course, we're going to have, the rest of the world. And Chris is going to help us hit Canada as well, and Ireland for sure. So we're going to take this as far as we can go. And there's, like you said, there's so much we can do with these characters. I can just imagine animation, getting some of the puppets on the show, the puppets promoting their own book. We've got Bones the cat now has his own activity and coloring book, and he's so proud of this book that his friends made for him as a Halloween gift. And it teaches kids about friendship and struggles and all that kind of stuff. Being proud of proud of hard work. That's something you need to learn from a young age. Taking pride in your work. So yes, Absolutely. That's the kids stuff. So let's go over to the comic book. How did that all start?
All Dark Legacies. Yeah.
Yes.
I had a dream about it. So Claudia had the COVID dream about Mother Tree, and I had this rather strange dream before Dark Legacies was ever
the pizza
was ever
dream.
Born. The pizza dream. The pizza dream. I don't think I've ever told anybody publicly about this. I think I just told you about this. So anyway, so there you go. This could be a bit of an exclusive. So this is I had this dream, right? So Babylon 5 was very important to me growing up. Now I didn't get to see all of it. I got to see little bits of it because it was on Channel 4 in the UK. I think it was Sunday, 6 p.m. or something on a Sunday. I was at school at the time, and I grew up in Northern Ireland. We were basically killing each other over religion or politics. So my day-to-day life was essentially people getting shot in streets, news every day about bombs going off in Belfast. There was a bomb went off near my house, all sorts of things, right? And at a very, very young age, you're taught to hate the other side, and I mean hate. There was no friends, cross barriers, there's none of that. There's those ones over there, and you will hate them. So Babylon 5 comes along. Like, I watched a bit of Star Trek. We had a black and white TV when I was a kid. We didn't have a whole lot in Ireland. This is the classic poor-Irish family story. But we just had the black and white TV, and I watched a bit of Star Trek. But when Babylon 5 came on, there was two characters. It was Londo and Jakar. And what I noticed about them was that they were brutal enemies, and then eventually then you had respect. And then, even at a very young age, I could see that there was an awful lot of regret with Londo, with what he was doing, and really what, you know, the cost of life, and, you know, because of this ideological struggle or whatever. And I actually said this to Peter Jersick about this, that he was instrumental in actually teaching me, or his character was instrumental in teaching me that I didn't have to hate anymore. Right. So anyway, this is where like I had this great thing with Babylon 5, and I had this dream. So 20 odd years later, or whatever it was, I have this dream, and it's this beautiful courtyard. I'm not sure if it's in Italy or if it's in America or whatever, but it's sunny, and there's tables that are lattice tables, white lattice tables, and the cast of Babylon 5 are there. And I'm going in to get them a pizza, and I'm bringing this pizza out. Right, and it was just a strange dream. Everybody was there, and I woke up from that, and it was a very clear voice in my head that was saying everybody gets a piece of the pie. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I happened to be thinking about, you know, because we got the StokerVerse had become a success and all that, and then I thought, well, wouldn't it be good to do like a really interesting science fiction show that wasn't dystopian, because there's a lot of dystopian sci-fi, but something that was about hope and redemption and about all the classic spiritual values that Claudia and I know and love. And then we started talking about it, and I told Claudia about this crazy dream, and thank God she didn't put the phone down on me.
I thought it was beautiful. The vision was that to bring these characters, to bring the remaining cast back to actually contribute and work with Chris toward the characters, and to eventually maybe, you know, be part of this whole thing and bring us back together. It was just a beautiful vision that Chris had, and I thought it was smashing, because we do have a fan base that loved the values and the morals and the strong characters, and the way females were portrayed, the way that this, you know, future maybe up against huge struggles would then resolve in a more positive way than a lot of sci-fi does today. So he had that dream was, I didn't laugh at all, Chris. I thought it was great.
It could have been the first signs of a brain tumour. Maybe that was the first sign of my brain tumour.
Well,
that could be it. It could be it.
Well, guess what then? That brain tumor is responsible for some damn good comics that people love, and a wonderful series that, you know, I think has a lot of legs.
Well, it gave me a lot of pleasure to see you with your friends again, and like, you know, it's great having in issue 3 that we've got Nicola Bryant in there. You know, it's fun. It's been just this. For me, it's this, right, I'll write this and I'll write that. And I do take it very seriously. Don't get me wrong. I take everything that I do very seriously except myself. I take my work seriously, but I do not take myself seriously at all. So, you know, I do sit and we sit and think about it, and I ring Claudia up and we go through the characters. And I remember talking about that issue 3 character, and about where, I don't want to give too much away because it's not released yet, but it was a very pivotal moment for Jessica Steele, Claudia's character, and the two of us were like, well, should we do this? How are we going to do it? And Claudia had some great insight. See, this is the great thing working with Claudia, because she's got a great perspective and narrative, being a writer and being an actor as well. And, you know, that's an invaluable resource for me, because she got an instinct there that she can turn around and say, I think this will work, I'm not too sure about this, no, you're crazy. And usually the pendulum kind of goes backwards and forwards, right? So it's great fun. But yeah, this particular issue 3's pretty important, because it really establishes a bit more. We've had the first 2 issues is a lot of like shooting and a lot of backstory and a lot of fun. I mean, we've got Peter's character as an intergalactic hitman, and I don't think he's ever been that before. He's been a lot of things, but he's never been that before, like a suave hitman. We had to just go with Bruce just being been a cowboy, really.
The Western story with Bruce Boxleitner is so great.
We had to go with that.
You know, it's hilarious with these horrible creatures that are.
And I was
I
really
can see him.
well, I was really intimidated because I was emailing him, and he doesn't like email, and I'm emailing him, and I'm going, so give me your top 3 westerns. So he gives me a top 3 western, okay, and then he gives me a little bit of information about westerns, and I'm like, okay, all right. So I said, well, let's make it a bit like The Searchers, but a bit like this and a bit like that, and then I wrote it. And you know, I ask questions like that because I want everybody who's involved in Dark Legacies to go, yeah, this is my character, and when they see it in the comic book, they can go, yeah, this is me, and I really like this. And you know, that to me is really important. That's the whole pizza dream, is that everybody gets a piece of it, that they are imbuing parts of themselves and their own creativity into the comic.
Yeah, not just slapping their their face onto a comic book character, because that's just hollow. So it's really, Chris took the time to talk to Walter Koenig and Bruce Boxleitner and Peter Jurassic and Nicola, you know. So it's their juice inside of these characters, and of course he knows me well enough that Jessica was kind of a no-brainer.
And the fans will know. I mean, they know these characters so well that if you don't really put your art, like the art of the show, into it, they're gonna know. And the fact that you're a fan as well, I mean, it's not just like you're coming from outside and trying to copy what has been done. So I think that's the magic there.
See, there's something about, and I keep, you know, I'm going to Babylon 5, but basically every show that those guys have been in, it's not just the writing that's important, it's actually what the performer brings to it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of in Babylon 5 especially, there's a lot of the performers in there. There's things in there that just, they won't work well, or people. There's an inherent nature that each of the performer brings to those characters, and that's why those characters are still alive in everybody's memory at the minute. And hopefully it's the same for Dark Legacies. When people read the comics, that they get that these characters are very much part of, you know, the performers bring something to that, and then they're alive. We were very, you know, we didn't want to just do Babylon 5 again. We didn't want to say, that was one of the things when we started out, we said that we're not doing this for Babylon 5 fans, we're not doing this just to be another Babylon 5 thing. This is its own thing. And Claudia and I are both sort of, you know, we wanted to do something that was very hopeful and positive. And Claudia really helped me bring that out within the characters. And yeah, it's once we get the issue 4 with the first blocks done and people read it, they'll see that there's a lovely redemption arc there for most of the characters.
Well, living in the time that we do right now, the last thing on No King's Day, mind you, today, I don't see the value of a lot of dark negativity with no redemption, with no hope. I don't see how that values in my life or in society in general right now. I think we're in desperate need for, you know, some sort of light at the end of this bloody tunnel that we, you know, I mean, it's so interesting. Chris coming from, you know, Northern Ireland and that violence through his life. I'm from a family of immigrants. My mom lived through World War II. And of course we had people within Babylon 5 that lived through war, Mira Furlan, and also internal wars, you know, struggling with substance use disorders and you know, process of identity and just various things that everybody had a different ending and has a different ending. But I think Chris and I have something very strong in common, which is we believe in God. We believe in a divine source that has been, I think, a source of great comfort for both of us, if I may say that, Chris. I mean, I know for me it's taken me through some dark days, but But it also seems to flow in that way of creativity, that energy, that divine energy, not to be too precious about it, but there's something about giving and taking and giving and taking in creativity that reminds me of something bigger than us. It's a shared human experience, creativity.
It's actually one of the strangest books that I'd written. It's dedicated to Claudia's foundation. It was published March time. It was March time, and it was a Celtic exploration of the Gospels, and it was something I had never written before. It was it's not horror, it's not science fiction. It took me about a year and a bit to write, and it was taking all the stories of the Gospels and all of that, and then turning it into Celtic metered prose. How the Celts before sort of the established church, Catholic Church, came into Ireland. Before that, it's going back into the original Celtic Church, and I found that it was a journey of exploration. Now that's true, I think, for anybody, regardless if you're religious or if you're not religious. Everybody's got stories that they cling to, and that the further exploration of these stories, whether it's Star Wars or Doctor Who or whatever, for me it's the Gospels. The further exploration of that leads to an awful lot of understanding about the people around us, ourselves, and the wider world. I think that's what's really special about Dark Legacies. To be honest, I think that's what Claudia and I are trying to do. We're trying to show people mirrors and just say, this is your neighbour, this is your neighbour, and this is also your neighbour. So yeah.
And you have the ability to make the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to change the world, or at least your immediate surroundings, with kindness, love, understanding, and with a grasp of what is moral and what is not. And I think, once again, not to be preachy or anything, but that's needed more than ever now.
Oh, yes.
It really, truly is. It's needed more than ever.
And books and movies and all these creative things have always been an escape. And so, like you say, we want to escape into a place of hope, not more doom and gloom and sad endings and stuff. So especially now, I've even seen myself. I don't even live in America, and it's affecting us over here. It's driving us nuts. Just being on social media, just the news and stuff. It's draining. It wants to drag you down with it. So I'm watching more comedies lately than horror movies and stuff.
Doom scrolling or a little Dudley Moore? I'll take Dudley Moore. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. I know. It's a very challenging time right now, and we can come up with some lovely, hopeful, beautiful distractions like Mother Tree and Dark Legacies, and do what we can to try to create an environment where people aren't doom scrolling all day long.
Well, I had an interesting interview earlier today about if you think back to zombie movies and zombie apocalypse, it's actually about idealism and people with completely different ideas at opposite spectrums, and the one is the living and the one is the dead. So America is actually going through a zombie apocalypse at the moment. And you have to go for the brain, you have to go for the mind to try and change people's minds. So hopefully we can start with the kids and or shows for adults with hope, but without being preachy. I love shows that have lessons, but you do get irritated when it's too preachy, in your face. It's not incremental. It's bam in your face, and people don't react to that. They freeze up. It's too much.
A couple of years ago, I love Panto. Around Christmas time, the classic pantomime experience, Cinderella or Jack and the Beanstalk, done very campy with adult humor and lots of lascivious little jokes and stuff. So I went and booked my ticket at the Hackney Empire in London, where I always go, and they made it really and It was awful. They took out all of the adult humor and the sexy
Oh
stuff,
no.
and it was just this really preachy, 2 hours of musicals, and I was very disappointed. So yeah, it can ruin an art form
Mm.
when you're trying too hard.
And
The message gets through with I mean, something like that is you're celebrating the absurd.
mm.
There's nothing like a
That
sexy widow twanky, right?
what?
Widow twanky. I can't even remember what panto Widow Twanky's from. It's usually a drag artist that does it, and I've never been to panto.
Oh, you've
I
never
should
been?
go. No, I've never been to panto.
Oh, you have to go to a panto. Siri and McKellen did one, I think last year in London. I should have gone to that one instead of the other one I went to. But yeah, I'm hoping that they'll keep a pure art form of that in some way, shape, or form, and not make everything all precious like they did. Oy.
And you're not going to get the message across to the people you're actually targeting. It's too in their face.
You're
And
going to alienate them.
exactly. And the people who already know the message, you're just going to irritate them. So it's not
Yeah.
going to
It
win
is
anyone
irritating.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a real art form to state the obvious in a way that's not obvious. Be kind to everyone. How do we write a 4-act play on that without it being obvious? And that I think that's part of the skill and what we try to do in some of the stuff. Like Mother Tree, for example, is not a preachy book, but very clearly it looks at the cost for the animals of what we do, because we're linked to the world outside, So Claudia and I tried to do that a little bit, where it was more focused on. I mean, Claudia's created this great character, Lulu the cat. Have you talked about Lulu yet?
No, Lulu is very French and very cynical. She has seen like the whole world go down. Lulu is she's been abandoned, and so she's extremely defensive, scared. All of those, that she trusted her human family. She loved her human family. She was reliant on them to care for her, and now she's been abandoned, and she's extremely vulnerable, but she has a defense mechanism, and it's very cat-like behavior. I can do this by myself. I'm fine. They're very independent creatures. They come to love on you when they want to love on you, not when you call them like a dog. They're not obedient. They're very, very, I would say cynical in a way, and very, very low key. And so Lulu, she's obviously I think Lulu's the star of the Mother Tree. I mean, she is the impetus behind the storytelling, and she runs into these animals who have been doing the right thing by each other. They've been they know inherently that if you work together, you get things done, and it's easier to feed 3 mouths if 3 animals are working together to feed 3 mouths, and it's easier to protect the place you live, this beautiful tree, if you work together to protect this beautiful place that you live. So they've learned that, and of course Lulu comes in and doesn't understand A, why they're being nice to her, or B, should she trust them, or C, well, it's completely bizarre for her. She was living in a house with a roof over her head before. Now she's in this shelterless environment with 3 other species, so that are wild, not domesticated. So there's so many analogies and metaphors and and everything else going on there that I think she can be symbolic of a lot of independent struggles.
If I think now of, it's mostly TV shows and stuff that the kids are watching. All of these things, they're like these big fads for like a few months, and then the next one comes, the next one comes. So we grew up with books and characters that we still remember today. It wasn't
James
a fad.
and the Giant Peach.
It stayed with us for decades. I mean, it's still here. Like, do you still have, other than the Mother Tree and these memorable characters, are there actually still these books and series, movies, whatever, where kids are introduced to long friendships that can last them their whole lives. I'm not even sure. I've seen them because they're stuck on YouTube most of the time. I mean, just to get my kid to watch an actual movie these days is a struggle.
Yeah, it's hard, and I don't want to be one of those older people who. I mean, I'm a firm believer in flexible thinking. So if the world is changing, then we must change with it to the extent where we're comfortable. So I don't ever eschew things like, oh, I don't want to watch stuff online, but I don't really participate it in a sense unless it's really good quality. And that therein lies the problem, I think, when you make something cheap and fast and you slap it together, then the cultural taste in general, the generational taste is going to change, and maybe that's what they like, cheap and cheerful and loud and fast and a limited attention span, little bites of videos. I mean, the majority, I won't say the majority, every single thing that anybody has ever shown me on TikTok, in my opinion, has been not funny. I mean, they're like, this is so funny, and they show it to me, and I think, this is not funny at all. It's stupid as it can all be. It's so there's nothing sophisticated about the humor. It's just dumb. It's just dumb, and yet, it's massively popular. So I have to, as a person who thinks they have, a couple of brain cells, I have to look at that and say, okay, well, other people find this really funny. So what in there? It resonates with me. You can't just throw it away and say, well, it's all crap. You have to say, well, what's in there that I can relate to, and then maybe I could put my own flavor on it and create something that generation would like, that actually has my unique perspective and wisdom of living on this planet for 60 years, as opposed to, I'm not 20, but I do have an extra 40 years of experience to bring to things. And what comes with that? What comes with being 60 years old? It comes with a lot of suffering and a lot of hope and a lot of anxiety about the future and a lot of growing and changing per my environment and dealing with these huge monumental changes that have occurred since I was born in 1965. I mean, big things have happened. So in taking that and finding the childlike joy and finding the child within all of us, I think that brings a different perspective to it than, say, an 18-year-old writing a children's book, which doesn't mean that either one has less value. It just means that there's a different quality of perspectives. And even where Chris grew up and where I grew up, these are differences that you may not think have that much influence on our work, but they do. They absolutely do. I like bringing my child with me everywhere, in every meeting, in every word I write, every word I say as an actor. There's that little Claudia in there, because that's the part of you that allows you to express yourself freely. And so many people don't have that in their 20s or 30s. They're self-conscious, or in their teens, they're very self-conscious. They're not free. And it's only when you really get to your 50s and 60s that you just say, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I don't care what I look like or what they feel. I'm just going to be me, completely me. So when kids say, oh, be authentic, it's very, very hard to really be authentic until you reach a complete state of comfort within yourself and self-love. And that usually comes with age. For anybody who reaches that at 25, God bless you. Lucky you. But I didn't reach it until I was in my 50s. So that's a whole other thing that one brings to the playfulness.
I think from like 40, I only started becoming more like, this is me. And I actually started like speaking up more when something wasn't right. Normally I would just like stay out of it. But now I'm like passionate about things, and I know what's right and wrong and what I'm not going to stand for, especially when you have kids. And I wish, like, man, if I could have just been there at a younger age. But I mean, that's life. Like, it comes with experience and time.
That's the beautiful thing about the experience and the maturity is that without those experiences, you would have not learned resilience. And without that resilience and learning what you can accommodate, and how setting boundaries actually helped you grow as an individual, learning to stand up and say, no, nobody did that for you. You said, no, I don't like what's going on here, so I'm going to set my boundary right now, or speak up. If your parent was speaking up for you, or your partner was speaking up for you, you never would have learned to do that by yourself. So that's actual learned experience. And there's no other way to fake that. You can't fake that. You have to live. You have to be disappointed. You have to be rejected. You have to have all those life experiences in order to finally say, I'm going to do what makes me happy.
So if you think of someone in their 20s already getting there, it's actually, in a way, it might even be sad, because they've had a rough first 25 years, because they've probably gone through things that a normal young person shouldn't have gone through, unfortunately.
I think we all go through, the majority of us go through a really rough first 20 years, because we don't know how to say no. We don't value our autonomy and our own ability to say, hey, you know what, that's offensive to me, or you're hurting my feelings. So we put up with it and we absorb it and we take it. And that's very painful.
I can just imagine if a teenager could just say the words like, this conversation is making me uncomfortable, I'm going to leave, instead of engaging and fighting and arguing, whatever. And I think that whoever's standing on the other side is going to be like taken aback and actually like think about the situation as well, and it doesn't escalate, kind of thing. But I mean, and if you try and teach that to a teenager, they're not gonna listen to you probably anyway. So I'll see what happens when my youngster is a teenager. Hopefully.
Well, you can lead by example.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing. If you see a parent saying to somebody who's saying something racist or homophobic or just dead wrong, if you see an adult saying, hey, you know, that's not my belief system, and that makes me very uncomfortable, what you just said. If you see an adult doing that, that's why parents have to role play. They have to role model. I mean, they have to be the ones that show the kids how to act as a decent human being.
So this brings me back to fiction. So let's say movies and books. I mean, we learn from, hopefully, most of us learn from other people's mistakes. And movies is a kind of like exposure therapy to situations you've never been in. Like, how much do we learn from fiction and movies, and how characters behave, the good ones and the bad ones, and the empathy we have for other characters? I mean, a lot of that applies to who we eventually become. And that's why you have to be careful what you watch and what you read, because, I mean, everything just becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that you know, conflict is something that you know, good storytelling has a lot of conflict and a lot of tension. And I'm a highly sensitive person. I hate conflict. I hate watching it. I hate it when the good person has to go through a struggle.
You're only watching because you know it's the story continues.
Redemption now. Yeah, I hate it. I can't stand it. It makes me really uncomfortable. Sometimes I can't even watch series. I couldn't watch Baby Deer or you know, it just made me massively uncomfortable. So that's I'm boring as far as that is. Chris is a better person to talk to that.
Well, I can tell you that Baby Reindeer was probably one of the worst things I've saw in my life. I thought it was reprehensible to say that it was an entertaining television show when it was based around things that certainly were not entertaining. And that always kind of worries me as well with certain things, that they're designed and they're made to be quite voyeuristic. And almost cheer the bad guy on. Always, I don't like serial killer things, because that's always a bit of a disturbing. You know, when I write Dracula, it's very clear that Dracula's a bad guy. Now I write a lot of horrendous stuff and things that happen, but there's good and there's evil, and in my stories, evil never wins. Story's very important to our evolution as humans. So, why Neanderthal man died out and Neolithic man survived is a transmission of story. Neanderthal man had no way to tell story. Neolithic man did. So we were able to transmit information through story and painting and art, and we still do this. This is why story is fundamental. Now, the breakdown of society and human civilization will come from TikTok. 10 seconds. You cannot tell a story in 10 seconds. And this is why society is breaking down, because we are not crafting and creating story to pass on, even if it's a repackaged story. Look, there's strands of story that have existed from our Neolithic period of time. The concept of solar worship, for example. And you look at Superman. Superman's part of the solar worship cult because he's powered by the sun. The story of Christ. Christ is crucified on a cross, and the shape of the cross that we have in art is actually the symbol of the equinoxes. When Christ dies, the sun disappears, and then you have Osiris and Horus and Isis. You've that story as well, and that's part of the solar. So these stories are repackaged, and these are, I think there's like 7 strands of stories, and Joseph Campbell goes into these in his book Masks of God, brilliant book. And you have then modern adaptations like Star Wars. And Star Wars is great because Star Wars just says there's a good side and there's a bad side. Imagine what they call the light side and the dark side, and there's nothing in between. But there's these 2 choices that you have. Spider-Man does it. With great power comes great responsibility. And the genius of Spider-Man is that it tells the story of an ordinary person who is thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and how do they deal with that. And I think that's why story is important, because it gives us the moral building blocks for our society, and these things. Was it The Richest Man in Babylon's another very, very good allegory. If you want to know about somebody says to me, well, there's no story about economics. Well, there is. The Richest Man in Babylon. It's there. It's a parable. It's a story. So story's fascinating to me. I think it's a very original form of magic. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
And history, keeping your history and continuing these traditions. I was reading an article this morning about the reduction in teenagers reading, and how that is adversely affecting society, and how a society that doesn't read will eventually crumble. And it was, making correlations between the Roman Empire and our current situation. So yeah, so reading is fundamental.
I'm always happy when I go to a bookstore and I see like a bunch of teenagers shopping for books, and they've got these massive thick books. I'm like, I actually want to go up to them and say like, thank you for reading, but I mean it'll just be weird. But I'm so happy when I see that. And so I think there are still, there's a lot of readers out there. I think we just see the bad side more. It's like we see the TikTok trends, and people, they're more visible than the well-behaved, quiet people who go and read and educate themselves. So hopefully the world will continue, because there are people doing amazing things in the world that we just don't know about. We just keep seeing the crap that the foam that floats at the top of everything.
Yeah.
So
well, before we go, I want to highlight something else that Claudia does as a storyteller, and it's an industry I was involved in as well. Video games. And video games are a great way to tell a story. I actually ended up playing World of Warcraft because Claudia's in World of Warcraft, so I started playing it, and I found myself getting drawn into the story, and again, a story of fantasy and adventure and stealing pumpkins. Sometimes you have to steal pumpkins in World of Warcraft, but it's things like that. And she's been involved in there was a Call of Duty game which I got last year. It's a couple of years old now, but I got it last year and played through it. And I just wanted to pay tribute there as well, Claudia, because that's another form of your storytelling, is through the video games and the voice acting and what you bring there as well. And for audiences like people who do play video games, a lot of us play video games for the story content, not necessarily just multiplayer, but actually the story content. So yeah, just before we go, I wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Chris. I was watching that Netflix documentary on the kid. I can't remember now. Sorry if it was Finland or Denmark or The kid who had a completely online life that his parents didn't know about it. And when he passed away, all these people showed up at his funeral. And he was a World of Warcraft player who, in the game, could be what he couldn't be in real life because he had physical disabilities and this horrible illness. But in the game, he was constantly helping people. That was his true nature. He was helping other players through things, through emotional times. He was giving a lot of emotional support to people. He was contributing to that society within the game, but also the society that bled into actual real life. So it felt good to me because there's a part of me that always feels like, oh gosh, doing all these video games, I'm contributing to the demise of young people's futures, But the truth of the matter is, everything can be used for good and for bad. You can take anything and make it anything beautiful and make it horrible. So in this way, there are aspects of video game playing that are actually quite positive and beautiful, and people can have camaraderie and they can do things as an able-bodied avatar that they can't do in real life. So there's something positive about it.
That's good. I have to say,
and that gives me hope.
It does. When you said now about taking something bad and turning it into something good, there was a guy, he was like 95 years old or something. It was one of the last surviving World War II vets, and it might have been through TikTok or YouTube, but he was actually posting videos and talking to people about life experience and the war, and he was talking about these bad things, but in everything with a positive light and hope. And when he passed away, they said he was like one of the most popular TikTokers, YouTubers, whatever, and he was in his 90s. Yeah, wow. So I believe there are good stories, there are great creators out there who are reaching the fans or the people through that medium. But again, they're so hard to find because you have to sift through so much crap to get there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And when you hear that 20-year-olds are taking medical advice from TikTok and not from doctors, then, you go into another realm of fear. But like you said, there's good aspects of it.
A lot of people are using ChatGPT now as a psychologist, which I would not recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, so just one more thing. So we've got comic books, we've got the Mother Tree, we've got games, like anything else you two are doing together or separately working on at the moment that you can share, or you want to like highlight so people can go check it out?
I'm just doing, I've been doing World of Warcraft a lot, and I've been writing my own stuff, which is a television series that I'm working on. I'm sure Chris has a plethora, a list the size of Cleveland of things. Because every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just finished this."
Well, this is my 6th interview today. I've been up since 2 a.m. Starting with the BBC. So I've got a Doctor Who charity book coming out. It's all the Daleks, officially licensed, and every penny is going to MS Focus. It's coming out next week. Shadows of the StokerVerse coming out, which is a fully illustrated novel. Every page is illustrated by Clint Langley, who illustrates Warhammer and 2000 ADs, well, these big name artists. I'm just a small fry compared to him. And there's probably something else. Oh, the StokerVerse video game's coming out in a month. So there's a demo available right now if you want to go to, I think it's Incubate with an 8.com, and you can go and you can download and level and play as Jonathan Harker as he desperately tries to escape Dracula's castle. There you go. That's probably the 3 things to talk about.
And I did just finish editing your Eddie Poe book, so I'll be sending those edits back to you soon. I'm waiting for the artist to finish. He's creating the characters, the artwork.
This is the library. Is this the library one?
Yes. And
yeah.
So as soon as he's done with the characters, he's gonna draw the scenes from your book with those characters.
Oh, great! I know we've got the puppet. I'll send you this, Claudia. There's a puppet for Monster Kids book that I'm doing with Joe, which is all about kids facing their fears and stuff. You know, I forget half the stuff I'm doing because honest to God, like the tumor, where the tumor is, I forget so much. Like I have to keep, like my Facebook. I don't mind sharing this publicly. My Facebook is really, I put a lot of stuff there because I forget, and I'm actually creating a little memory book of like people I'm working with and little pictures and stuff, and it's in the frontal left lobe. So it can be a bit, memory stuff can be a bit blurry with like names and things. I still manage to write books, comics, thank God. You know, someday that might not be the case. I might not be able to anymore. But at the minute I'm fine with it. So it's always good whenever you remind me things and say, "Oh, do you remember that thing you did a couple of months ago?" I do now. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Well, keep us posted and live healthy, get some rest. I know you sometimes don't get enough sleep.
I try. I'm actually getting a lot more sleep now. A lot. Today was a bit of a blip. Usually I get 7 to 8 hours. But there's a lot of, I co-run a film TV company now, and there's a lot of learning with that. And today we announced that I sort of co-own a comic company, and it's just I'm learning as much as I can as I go, and it's fun because you learn so much about the industries, and I'm very passionate about crafting companies that are ethical, because the entertainment industry is not necessarily an ethical industry, and I have had my struggles with that, and I want to create places where people get not just monetarily the value, but are also respected, and that you know, whatever they create is treated well and with respect. So yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's what I'm up to.
Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Claudia. I'm gonna put all your information, stuff about the books. I'm gonna throw up the cover art of everything we're busy with, and I can't wait to share all your projects with the world, especially the ones that I'm involved in through Chris Lake Publishing. Wonderful people, wonderful projects. I'm just really excited about it, and I'm in love with the work that you are doing. So thank you so much. I hope
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
I hope we can make you proud and like do the best we possibly can with these books. And
I have a feeling you will.
thank you. And get an audience who's gonna live with these characters for decades, like, become a part of their lives and like the choices they make. So
And this time next year, you'll be doing Dark Legacies.
yes.
Yep.
You'll be doing our brand new run of Dark Legacies, so that's going to be fun too.
I have to say, like, if I was able to tell like that a 10-year-old whatever kid that one day you're going to be involved in whatever way in comic books, like, I would have freaked out. Like, I would have been so happy. So this is a dream come true. Working, I don't care how little it is, just seeing the artwork before the rest of the world does. I mean, even that just like blows my mind. And then the words come in.
We're excited to work with a passionate person like you.
Oh, you as well. Thank you so much. And yes,
Thank you.
thanks again. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more. Can't wait to see what you guys do next. And
Thanks
thanks for
Joe.
coming on the
Bye,
show.
folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.